a friend of mine journeyed to Missouri with his father to their family farm. And they were on a bit of a mission to retrieve one particular item from the farm. It was sort of one of these, like, just in case anything ever happened to the old homestead, we were going to bring this one thing home. I don't know if any of you have done that, like you've gone to relatives' houses and brought home, teacups or photos or something just in case. I know that my mom has in her house like cut crystal doorknobs from her father's house because they just don't make them that way anymore. Well, my friend and his dad were doing the same thing, only they weren't bringing back teacups or photos. They were bringing back an entire door. And they were bringing it back to Virginia and make that a barn door. So what exactly does one do with a barn door in Northern Virginia? It makes sense to me to bring back photos, but a door, not so much. I can't imagine showing up at the UPS store with a giant barn door to be shrink-wrapped, stored, and then shipped across country. It seems like a lot of work, especially when it wasn't going to be used as a door anymore. There wouldn't be animals going to and fro through the door. There would be no more tractors or grain stored behind it. And the gates wouldn't even be barring against harsh weather. So why practically move heaven and earth to get a barn door across country? So I reasoned that this must be some impressive door. So I conjured up this whole vision of what the door must look like. In my mind, it worked. It was like an arched door with a small square window in the center of it. And the door was red, of course. It had to be barn door red. And then I thought that there should probably be a giant beam which would slide across, hooking through two brackets on either side. As I tried to envision it, and I'm a very tactile person, a very visual person, as most of you know, I wished I could run my hands over it to know whether it was smooth or rough. And I wanted to be able to trace my fingers in the gouges. And I wanted to know what color it really was. And if the paint was cracking off, or if there were layers upon layers of paint that, if you could talk to each layer, it would tell you a different part of the story. And then I didn't, as I started thinking about it, I thought, well, I don't really know if it's actually wood. It could be metal. But I had a fairly typical, nostalgic door in mind. Very idyllic. And then the other day, I learned what the door actually looked like. And it wasn't the same image I had at all. The door was made up of 100-year-old slats of wood, nailed to two horizontal beams, and it wasn't an exterior door. It was an interior door that separated a main section of the barn from a closet. And there was no color to it beyond the naturally aged wood. And it had been around since the Civil War. As he shared that, I realized that what he was doing was sort of inviting me into parts of his world. And in some ways, although I know for certain that he would not view the barn door in this manner, he had invited me to stand before an Advent door. And I realized then that not knowing what the door actually looked like in the beginning had been a good thing. Because the more I thought about the door, the more possibilities of what a door could look like had arisen. So as I had envisioned running my hands across that barn door and hearing stories that door might have to tell, I began to think that that might be what we actually need to do on this last Sunday of Advent. That maybe what we so desperately need to do now is to press our ears snugly against the door and listen. to run our fingertips over the edges of the door and feel the smooth, familiar parts and the surprisingly rough parts. There aren't really any doors in today's scripture lessons. We have Mary and Elizabeth and an angel. But they are plenty of Advent doors, once we remember what doors actually do. Doors protect, and doors give passage. And beyond doors lie a whole new expanse of possibility. And today, God beckons us to step through these doors to what lies beyond them. So you're going to need to use your imagination a little bit. But the good news in that is that's what God does every time he seeks out a new door, is uses his imagination. So first, listen as we open up these remaining Advent doors. That gasp, that is another door being opened. And so what door could that have been? It was Mary, when she peered into the door opening before her. Because her door is brilliant and bewildering, and light streams forth, blinding and confusing her as it opens. Because before Mary lies the angel Gabriel, a passage between heaven and earth. And Gabriel does what any good door is designed to do. He protects and gives her passage to the next step and opens up to Mary new possibilities. And Mary, I envision, after she caught her breath, she runs to the next door. And I don't know if she did this, but I think I would, as I encountered the next door, just to help myself know that it's actually true. I'd run my hand, and this would make me crazy if I was a pregnant woman, but I would run my hand down that taut tunic of hers, this 6-month pregnant woman who is not Mary, but it is Elizabeth. And so as you press your hand on this door, on her 6-month pregnant belly, remember that this door is too old for this. And what lies beyond that door? Probably all the worries that she harbors, because she's kept this pregnancy almost completely secret. Elizabeth is a door, an ancient, well-worn door, and yet she still does the same thing. She protects, and she gives passage, and she opens up new possibilities. Because through this doorway, this door known as Elizabeth, John eventually enters into the scene, becoming a doorway himself for Jesus to walk through. An unlikely door that most people would tell you had been off its hinges for quite too long. And yet he too provides passage, protection, and possibility. And now there's one more door, one that's about to be flung open. And by now you know this door is Mary. But you need to stop for one moment and revisit this door. Because what I realized with the barn door was just because I have an image of what the door looks like, it doesn't mean there isn't more to it. Stand back and look for a moment before you walk through, because this is a new door. It's low grade, though. It's one like that you pick up from Zimmerman's. Mass-produced. Nothing special. The hardware on it isn't even upgraded to brushed nickel. Nothing much could lie beyond that door. It's not brilliant like the angel door. It's not worn and ancient, holding stories of days gone past like the Elizabeth door. And it doesn't even have the eclectic flair like the John door. No, this door is utterly unimpressive. I'm not sure that it would catch my eye or my interest, and I'm not sure I'd even ask to know the story behind the door, like I did with my friend's barn door. But this door is Mary, the door between heaven and earth. And she protects and gives passage, and a whole new universe is opened up through her. And I might never open up a door and step through something as unimpressive as her. I don't know if this is true for you, but I've heard it said quite often this season that Christmas just doesn't seem like Christmas this year. That the holly jolly seems less, and the busy seems more, and that the tragedy seems heavier. That Christmas has just been really hard to find this year. I found myself wondering a bit where the door is too. With all that's gone on, we may feel a bit more trapped than like a whole universe lies before us. I don't believe that God pronounces wrath on people because we no longer pray aloud in school. And I don't believe that God only blesses those who do right, whatever that looks like. And I don't believe that God is a my way or the highway kind of God. And if I ever were to find out that he was, well, I'd go ride ambulances full time. Now, see, the God whom we worship, the God whom we seek, and the God whom we love, erects doorways all over the place, connecting heaven and earth. And sometimes, when earth starts to resemble hell much more than earth, God erects a doorway in heaven. He did it at the crucifixion, and he does it in Newtown. And I don't think God wanted the door there, but when hell comes to earth, God's going to start erecting doors to protect, to give passage, and to open up new possibilities. He's doing it in Pakistan, in Egypt, and in Yemen. He's doing it in your life and in mine. He's doing it in synagogues and churches and mosques all across the world. That's what God does. Makes doorways for all of us to walk through. There's one piece about the barn door that I didn't tell you about. And it's the reason they moved heaven and earth. Ever since the early 1900s, members of his family had carved their initials into that door. And he told me that he remembered the time that he and his big sister got to carve their initials into that door, along with all the other people who had gone before him. It's their door. It's not just a door. It certainly is some door. That's the kind of doors God erects. Some are amazing, and some are old or new, and some are humble, and some are brilliant, some eclectic, and some small, and some intimidating. But they are all doors for us to walk through, to step into a bit of heaven when it comes to earth. And God carves our names into doors all over the universe, so that when we pause before the next Advent door that we come upon, we might trust that no matter where the door is, on earth or in hell, beyond it lies heaven. You know, my friend's barn door is now in Williamsburg, and there's still a debate about where the door will actually go. Will it be hung in the loft or placed on the wall, or will it stay in storage a bit longer? God only knows where that door will end up. God only knows what the next door to heaven will look like. But the promise of Advent is that even if we don't see the doors, even if we won't open them up, Jesus promises to come running down the hallway and fling wide the door